Welcome, everybody. My name's Cody. I'll be your host this evening from University of the Sunshine Coast. This is the Postgraduate Business Masterclass, and our focus on is leading change and infrastructure for tomorrow. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live and recognize their continuing connection to land, water, and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, before we get started for this evening, I'd like to introduce that we do have some special panelists with us tonight. We have Dr. Jane Menzies, Program Coordinator and Discipline Lead of Postgraduate Business here at UniSC, as well as current MBA student Chindi Gunther, who will be also joining us later on this evening during our panelist discussion. Now, if you have any dying questions to have answered tonight, you'll be able to see that at the top or bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A button located. This is where you can type any questions you see fit that are suitable for anything about our programs, around the masterclass that's coming up, maybe questions on how to study, what does study look like here at UniSC, but also if there is anything you're learning throughout this evening and do want to find out more, we'll be able to answer those questions live and on the spot by myself, our supporting team member Maria from our marketing communications team, as well as from Jane, our program coordinator. So a little bit about UniSC. We are a multi-campus university from Fraser Coast, Gympie, Sunshine Coast, Caboolture, and Moreton Bay, but also have the flexibility of studying online. Now, if you are looking at studying postgraduate business with us, anything from a grad cert, grad diploma, or even an MBA or MBIA, which we'll be able to show you a little bit later on, you have the flexibility to study all these programs completely online, but also use any of our campuses as a study location for you. Doesn't matter if you're allocated as an online student, our campuses are your second home. You can use these as study locations or an opportunity to engage and meet with other students. So, a little bit about our business or our School of Business. We're number one in Australia for teaching quality in business, number two in Australia for teaching by the Best Business School, and number one in Queensland for all overall educational experience. What this means is that we offer a really high standard when it comes to our one-on-one teaching, especially when it comes to postgraduate business. And I'm sure Jane, a little bit later on, can talk about those accolades a little bit deeper and how we were able to achieve those results. So, a little bit about some of our programs. A really great pathway is starting off in our graduate certificate in business administration. Now, a really big thing to highlight is that we were able to be allocated Commonwealth supported places in this program, which means that you can save over 40% on the cost of this program, which means it's around $7,000 in savings, which is fantastic. Really great thing about this program, my favorite part overall, it's something that I'm looking at studying myself, is that you only have one required course, but you also have three electives. So you can really build it around the skill set that you want. And there's so many different courses to choose from based on what maybe your current working environment or current skill sets you want to be able to achieve. My other favorite part of this program is that you actually don't have to have a previous university 3-year degree experience to apply. If you do have up to 3 years relevant full-time equivalent work experience and plus appropriate level of English proficiency, you are able to use this as a way to gain entry into the graduate certificate in business admin. As you can see there, you are able to use a graduate certificate business as which is 4 courses of study, and you are able to level up your study journey. So you might be able to use this grad cert to be able to level up your employment or your skill set or even your position within your workplace, and then but keep on furthering your study with another 4 courses for the graduate diploma, and finally 4 further courses for the MBA, which in total, the MBA is around 12 courses. So talking about the MBA, you have a few different options. I think the biggest thing to highlight is this is one of the most cost-effective programs that we have here at UniSC. And I think for an MBA, it's one of the most cost-effective MBAs across Australia with the Commonwealth supported place with up to 40% discount available for this program. It is available completely online, but you could also choose to study it on campus as well if you are wanting to, or you can do the combination of both. And there's many pros and cons. And the great thing about it is that you can slip in or slip out of being an on-campus or online student as you see fit. highly recommend talking to our program coordinator on what that could mean to you if you are wanting to be more face-to-face or you want to have the flexibility to study completely online. As you can see in this program, there is seven required courses, but then you also have five electives with the opportunity to do a range of different specializations. And I would love for Jane a little bit later on. We're going to talk about these new specializations. This is all a part of the brand new MBA, which is really cool to see. Now, if you are wanting to jump straight into an MBA, you do require to have a bachelor's level qualification to gain entry. Alternatively, if you don't have a bachelor's level qualification, your best step forward would be most likely studying the grad certificate in business and then using the grad cert completion to jump straight into the MBA, which is a great pathway, as well as counting for your first 4 units. Now, we have also a new program that was released mid last year, which is called the Master of Business Intelligence and Analytics. This is a fantastic program. It does have a series of courses that are highly applicable to, I guess, the modern working environment, from evidence-based decision making, finance and accounting managers, but also unique program courses like fintech and financial analysis, managing data visualization, as well as programming. These courses are really well thought out in terms of how to advance your workplace, make strategic decisions, especially in an online environment or even in a face-to-face environment or a service-based industry. We also have the grad cert in business intelligence and analytics, and also the graduate diploma and the MBIA. So you can level up your study as you go. Now, keep in mind that the grad cert in business intelligence does require you to have a bachelor's program to be able to gain entry. Now, if you are joining tonight and you are an international student or you're looking to study in Australia, we do have a range of international student scholarships available to you. Jump on to our international students page. We have a fantastic team there who will help you answer all your questions as well as how to be eligible for these scholarships. If not, you can scan the QR code and be able to find out more. Uh, so, how do you apply for postgraduate study at UniSC? Really great thing about UniSC, it's a fee-free application for our postgraduate programs. If you are a domestic student, jump on our website and apply. Create an account and apply at USC, upload supporting documentation and lodge, and you're done. You should receive response within 3 to 5 business days. If you are an international student, do the exact same thing except for /INT apply. Now, this means we have a specialized team who will work with you and your agent to be able to help you complete your application. I think this is a really perfect time to segue to introducing Professor Jane Menzies. Before jumping into obviously our masterclass, which we're all excited to hear about today, would you be able to introduce yourself in a little bit more depth in terms of maybe some of your work history as well as your connection to UniSC? Over to
Yes.
you, and I'll be listening behind the scenes. Now, don't forget to put questions in the Q&A tab. We'll be able to answer them throughout the evening. Thank you very much. Over to you, Jane.
Thank you so much, Cody. Really appreciate that. So as Cody introduced, my name is Dr. Jane Menzies. I'm the postgraduate and MBA postgraduate programs coordinator. I'm also the discipline lead for our business discipline here at UniSC, where I'm responsible for about 20 different staff in our school. So I've been working here at UniSC for the last 3.5 years. I'm a postgraduate business teacher as well, or lecturer. So I lecture international business at the postgraduate level. And before that, I spent 16 years at Deakin University. I'd worked at KPMG as well, so I had a little bit of a professional career before joining academia. I'm a researcher as well, so enjoy doing research and finding out about new knowledge and publishing new knowledge and so on. So that's pretty much the background about me. And as Cody's mentioned, we've worked hard over the last few years to develop and redevelop our MBA program to make it more attractive to students. And so one of those things that we have done is create basically specializations and a more attractive structure. So hope that you like it. But to get to the point and to get to our masterclass today, which is on the 4-day working week, which I've been interested in ever since the pandemic because I'm actually a Melbourneite. So I was one of those people who spent, I think it was 6 months times two in lockdown. So during those times, we were spending a lot of time thinking about things like work from home because we were all working from home, but also the 4-day working week. And it was really interesting during that period. One of my colleagues used to have industry engagement meetings, and they'd run at like 7 o'clock in the morning till 8:30 or something. And they were all just like business people who were, I don't know, still working at home as well. One of the people there was a lady called Kath Blackham, who is from Versa Agency. And Versa Agency is one of the first firms to, or in Australia, to sort of trial this 4-day working week. And I'm going to talk about that. So anyway, that kind of spurred my interest into doing a little bit of research on this topic. And today I just wanted to share some of the knowledge that I had around that. But it's also a bit of a taster as well to see what, how we usually teach our students, which is we are academic based, but we're also very much case study based. So I'll talk about that. So, Cody, if you'd like to keep on scrolling through the presentation, please. Thank you. Okay, so you might have the question, like, what is this 4-day working week? What does it actually mean? And if you go to the literature and if you go to businesses who are practicing it, it's actually this 100, 80, 100 model, which basically means that we are getting paid 100% of what we're getting paid. So there's no reduction in pay, but we're actually only working 80% of the time. So only 4 days rather than 5 days. However, for that, we're actually expected to still be at the same levels of productivity that we were had we been working 5 days. So you might ask the question, how do we, actually achieve that productivity? And I'm going to talk about that as I go along this presentation. But basically, yeah, as I've said, working for 4 days, the same amount of pay as we would for the 5-day working week. So as I said, it's really been around since 2018 to 2019. There was a company or an organisation based in New Zealand called Perpetual Garden, and they first trialled it. I think they've got about 240 different employees. So you can actually go and search for them on the internet, and you'll find out about all of their, kind of trials that they did. And in actual fact, their productivity went up by about 40%. Okay, so Versa Agency, and this was before the pandemic as well, had also started trialing it. So Versa Agency is a digital agency. They're based in Richmond in Melbourne. And again, they were, sort of, I guess, off the back of Perpetual Garden, who Perpetual Garden also produced a report that was, I guess, sort of adopted by different governments around the world and, different companies. And they also got a high level of productivity as a result of implementing the 4-day working week. So, obviously these discussions started to gain momentum during the COVID-19 pandemic, as I was saying, industry, we're discussing it, academics started to discuss it, organizations started to also implement it. And I'll talk about in the next slides about how, in fact, a lot of governments and government organizations have also started to implement it, which you would have heard about as well. But this was coupled with all these other discussions that we've had, such as this greater support for work from home. So obviously, those people in lockdown in Melbourne all had to work from home. And in actual fact, when we all came back to work, a lot of people were very comfortable with working at home and more comfortable than what they were previously. So there was this kind of thing, going on in the studies that were basically saying, well, people are actually being productive at home. And, so we can start to think about these kind of, alternative forms of working. Okay, so yeah, next slide. So I've already talked about Perpetual Garden and Versa Agency, but there's plenty of other organisations who are implementing it, such as Bunnings Australia or Medibank. Microsoft Japan is another example of an organisation who were using it or who did a trial. They had something like 2,300 employees, and in this they actually found that they got a 40% productivity gain as a result of implementing implementing the 4-day working week. So, just really, we can see that there's a lot of benefits. And, pretty much ever since that time, 2018, 2019, when Versa Agency and Perpetual Garden and Microsoft Japan had implemented it, we've seen a lot more other organizations also implement it over the last 5 to 6 years. There's a nice little article a few days ago, which I just picked up in the news, where basically an Aussie council down in Tasmania decided that they will allow their 600 employees to adopt this 4-day working week as well. So there's so many different examples. There's governments across different countries in public sector organizations also adopting it because there's a whole range of benefits that we can get out of doing it. Okay, so next slide, please, Cody. Okay, so there's also research that's just really looking at what are the different countries doing as well. So, it's not just Australia, it's not just America or the United Kingdom. South Korea have also been trialing it. So if you jump onto the website that I've mentioned below, you'll find that 50 different organizations have been trialing it in South Korea. More recently, again, in Australia, even though we had a few trials recently, there's also been, a kind of set trial of 20 different companies using it. Scotland has a trial in the public service. The same with the US, proposing a bill on it. Belgium has also proposed reforms on it. And the UK are really just looking as a trial as well and potential for legal reforms. Interestingly, probably about 3 or 4 months ago, we also had the like the ACTU, like making a stronger argument for employees to work this 4-day working week because of the benefits of it. It's sort of like Victoria's recent laws or the proposed laws to allow employees to work from home for 2 days a week, having that instilled as a working right. Okay, so go on to the next slide. So you might then ask yourself, what are these benefits of the 4-day working week? What do they do? And I've already said, higher productivity for organizations. And that's been found in the different parts of research or in how organizations experienced it. But I guess, there's been this sort of greater discipline at work because it also means that employees do need to change around the way in which they work. They need to be greater, have more intensification for work. I don't know if you've ever gone to a doctor and you've got the doctor's trying to get, your GP's trying to get through your consultation and he or she's working really quickly because the doctor gets billed on, the time that they're with you and basically also gets their kind of, Medicare bulk billing based on the time that they're with you. So obviously they want to be super productive. So I guess it's this greater discipline at work. And it might also mean that, we need to seek to cut out distractions that are going on at work. And then I guess there's plenty of distractions that we might experience, whether it be your colleague coming down to your office and saying, hey, Jane, would you like to go for a coffee? Or, hey, we're all going over to the pub for a lunch. In this sort of 4-day working week, we might actually have to then sort of go, oh, no, well, I really need to get my work done. I'm only here for 4 days. I'm not going to go and do that. Okay, so we basically would find that we probably have more focused workers, people who are really just trying to get those tasks done. We're getting rid of these long coffee breaks, these Friday long lunches, running off on Friday afternoon at 2:30 and those types of things. But also what the other types of benefits that we might be getting is this sort of less as absenteeism. It might be you've got to do a doctor's appointment and you have to take a day off. That's still absenteeism, even if you need to take leave to do that. Also, our 4-day working week might have a positive effect on our health. If you're having a lot of stress at work, sometimes you might get sick, but having a day off just means that, perhaps you could go and do yoga or you can relax or you can have a mental health day and those types of things. So really this 4-day working week is about trying to nurture our favorite or our greatest assets of our organization or greatest resources, which are our people. So it could be, a very beneficial thing to do. So we would expect that there is greater well-being for staff, on the fifth day that, employees can have a mental health day. As I said before, they can go and do some sports, they can go and get their doctor's appointments done, or any errands that you might have done on the weekend. Like I know sometimes I think if I'm working 5 days a week, I get to the weekend and I'm still going to go and do all the washing and go pick up go pick up do the shopping and those types of things. And you still feel stressed out. So maybe, having that kind of fifth day off during the week allows us to do those types of things. Pretty much like working from home. Basically, our 4-day working week also assists with less commuting to work. In a place like Brisbane or Melbourne or even the Sunshine Coast, if we're working from home or if we have that fifth day off, means that we're not traveling to work, doesn't it? So again, that has a positive effect for the environment. We're not having so much CO2 emissions and so on. But also, we can spend more time with our family, perhaps if they also have the day off, or we're not so stressed. We can focus on perhaps our children or taking our children to sports and so on. Okay, so next slide. Thank you. Okay, so what does the research say? Yeah, we've got plenty of research that's talked about productivity. Yes, we've got it having a positive effect on health. We've got a positive effect on well-being, and there's plenty other research which is really just saying that we do have like this really positive effect for us. However, there's not all good things, and there can also be a negative effect. And so, some researchers in New Zealand just really looked at how, perhaps these types of 4-day working weeks is really maybe trying to get more productivity out of employees than what they perhaps should be doing. And so, they really just took a critical approach and said that it was kind of like, like greater kind of monitoring employees, looking at their productivity, looking at all the data around how much these people are working. So it might not always be a good thing. So we have to consider both sides of the story. Okay, next slide, please. And there's also some challenges of the 4-day working week. One can be the implementation of it can be expensive. So if we think about any type of change within an organization, we have to change around the way in which employees behave. So that means that we need to, engage in a change process. And that could be expensive. We have to have project managers, transformation managers. We need to have employees who will actually, take on that kind of, like the new type of working week. Some people might be happy working 5 days a week. Who knows? It might not be suited to all business models as well. So if we think about hospitals and schools, well, schools are definitely open 5 days a week. Hospitals, we could, I guess, get through using 4-day working week by using shift work and so on. But again, there's often the need for people to be on call and so on. So that might not suit there. Similarly, any type of business like a hotel that might, we have people there all of the time. So, again, you need to have employees there. So again, working through that sort of shift work type of approach might be problematic. It was interesting. A few years ago, we had a seminar for industry on the 4-day working week and other, work from home and things like that. And in actual fact, a lot of small businesses came out and said, well, that doesn't really suit our business model because we need to be providing our services to get paid, every day of the week. I've got a cleaning business, someone wants their business cleaned on the Wednesday or the Friday, I need to be open. So perhaps it might not be suitable to all organizations. As I said before, the study by Delaney and Casey 2022 really just said that employees were found to have greater work intensification and greater management of their work because they were constantly being observed for their productivity and so on, which actually caused these individuals to have a lot of stress. There's also concerns over whether it is an employer-led process or employee-led implementation. So we would often argue that for any change to occur, we really need to have employees, sort of accepting that change and getting, taking the lead in implementing it. So, that could be another thing. The other issue might be the need to for different contexts around the world. So, I've talked about how different countries might be implementing it. Some Asian contexts, such as China, use or it's not actually a legal, like work week, but it basically says that it's called a 996 work week, where basically a lot of Chinese employees to get ahead will work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days per week. So, how do you change around that culture to a 4-day working week if people are really trying to work hard and achieve their goals and make their organizations more productive? Okay, so going on to our last slide, how can we implement the 4-day working week? So I just sort of took a few bits from what Versa Agency had done, but also there's a nice little article by Harvard Business Review that you can go and refer to. And in this article, it just talks about some of the guides to implementing this 4-day working week. But, we could start off by using a trial. So that's what Versa Agency did. They trialed it for a few months and then they found that, it did work and that their, employees were really happy with working a 4-day. Okay, using this change management process that I've talked about, getting employees engaged in the process, getting them to think about how can I be more productive at work. Perhaps, it goes down to one of the points below, might be what might be some things that we can get rid of, such as unnecessary meetings. I'm sure there's plenty of unnecessary meetings within organizations, and it might be employees, getting them to nominate what are the types of things that we can actually get rid of that we don't really need to be doing. Nice to have, but do we really need to have that same meeting every 2 weeks and so on? When Versa Agency talked about it, they basically said that they chose Wednesday as the day off. They didn't want to go for Friday or Monday just because they sort of thought, well, that would just give everyone a long weekend every week. And, that sort of changes the way in which, people might be working or thinking. But, Wednesday was sort of like a good day to do it simply because, you do Monday, Tuesday, then you get to Wednesday, hump day, and then you've still got Thursday, Friday to get through. Okay, so I guess one of the things around that for them was, they had to choose a day that everyone was going to have off. They also had to manage client expectations regarding which day they were having off. So just say the client wanted to have a meeting on a Wednesday, they really tried to say, hey, we're not open on the Wednesday. If you want to make a meeting with it, it has to either be Monday or Tuesday or Thursday or Friday. So there could also be things on how to train employees on how to be more productive at work. Again, that really strong focus on let's just, get our work done. Let's not do unnecessary tasks or less time, or, engage in time wasting. Just get in there, do your work and go home. Even with this kind of propensity of artificial intelligence, we can also, and automation, we can start to look at, what are the different types of tasks that could be automated that we don't need to, like do ourselves as a human. Can we get all of our emails written by AI and so on? Or can we do our scheduling through AI? So these are some of the types of things that we could start to think about, to, make us work smarter, not harder. Similarly, we might also want to be looking at analysing employee data. What are the types of things that employees are doing on their computers, how much time they're spending doing different tasks, and then just measuring a whole range of other things such as productivity, absenteeism, well-being, satisfaction, and finding out whether it actually does improve as a result of our trial. So then it might also be about, trying to get more employee feedback. And, if we've got really good feedback from employees, they're really happy with having their day off, then, go and proceed. Okay, so I think that pretty much brings me to the end of my little mini masterclass on the 4-day working week. Feel free to ask any questions if you have any. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it and you got a little bit of insight into their research and information about what is the 4-day working week.
Thanks, Jane. Greatly appreciated. It was really good to get an insight on the 4-day working week and what it means to some businesses, but others, how they use it in their own right. Obviously, you mentioned that some actually completely close on a Wednesday and do a split week, and then others obviously stagnate their team so it's suitable for the individual as well as the performance of the business. And there are a few questions coming through when it comes down to like certain industries, and we'll dive into those a little bit later on in this panel discussion. But first, I'd like to invite Chindi Gunther onto screen with us to join us on a panelist discussion. And although we've had the chance to meet Jane, obviously, and get a wealth of insight, Chindi, would you be able to introduce yourself as well as give us a deeper understanding about why you chose to go on to further studies? And I believe you're doing the MBA, if I'm correct. And how far along are you on that journey?
Yes, that's correct. Thanks, Cody and Jane. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chin D. I have one subject to go in my MBA, so it's just been an amazing journey so far. And thanks everyone for showing up tonight. So hopefully, I'll see you in some classes soon. So just briefly, a little bit about myself. I grew up and live now here on the sunny coast, but I did spend some time away in Sydney and Brisbane. I started as a graduate at St. George Bank after finishing my bachelor's in accounting at QUT. So this was almost 15 years ago. Actually, it is 15 years ago since I started. So pretty much last month. So yeah, I've done most jobs at the bank, predominantly in corporate finance. And now I just work remotely 4 days a week, which is kind of funny, the topic of tonight, from Budrum on the sunny coast. So I just help out a Sydney mortgage broker with his business, which has been great. I've been doing that since the pandemic, when I'm sure a lot of people from Sydney and Melbourne migrated north here. So just with regards to the MBA program, I guess what made me choose UniSC and also the program. So I found a lot of early career professionals, you spend your formative years after uni developing technical knowledge, which in my case was in corporate finance at St. George in Sydney mostly. And several years into my career, I started developing a strong interest in broadening my knowledge in areas such as marketing, business strategy, and leadership. And I really wanted to advance my career as well to progress up the ladder. So the UniSC MBA was a very clear choice to me to advance both my personal and professional development, and obtaining a qualification that's universally recognized and providing a competitive advantage in the workplace.
Thanks, Chindi. It sounds like you're balancing quite a lot, obviously. It sounds like you've got a pretty big workload, although you've been able to make it work over a couple of days a week, which sounds quite flexible, as well as using the model of working from home. You sound like you're working in a very modern age environment, which is cool to see. But what does the look like across these programs? Are you currently studying a semester-based model? Do you ever have to go onto campus? What are the assessment types? I'm sure there's a lot of people here tonight considering maybe upskilling while they're in their current work environment to receive higher roles or be able to be better equipped to be a better leader. How do they make it work while obviously committing to a employment at the same time? And I'll get Jane to jump on the back of that one as well. But Shindy, I'd love to hear it in your point of view on what that experiences look like for you.
Yeah, look, really great question, Cody, and I'm sure a lot of us have those questions as well this evening. So, living locally on the sunny coast, I am very fortunate in having that flexibility to attend classes both on campus in person and also the Zoom classes in the evening. So, I found that's been really beneficial. I've done both, working around my schedule. So, that flexibility is just amazing. And I've found also the 7 week sessions as opposed to the traditional 13-week semesters just been really amazing to deep dive into subjects. So I normally do one every 7 weeks, and just focusing on that one subject, I found just really great for, you have enough time to both synthesize the knowledge and complete the assessments, whilst being able to focus really deeply on that one particular subject. And if I were to guesstimate the hourly commitment per week, I'd recommend 10 to 12 hours. So it's definitely, I know everyone's busy and with life admin and work, but Is another great thing is all the lectures are recorded. So for whatever reason you can't attend your Zoom lecture, all the recordings there too. So it doesn't disadvantage anyone in that regard. Regarding those assessment items, they've ranged from essays to PowerPoint presentations. And what I really value is how each of the assessment items I've completed really has given me an opportunity to research personal areas of interest and apply academic theory and literature to current work-related challenges that I face. And I just want to give an example, which I was very fortunate enough last year to attend the Cambodia study tour as part of the business capstone project subject. And so the assessments for that particular subject before the Cambodia study tour, I completed a presentation and some research on climate change sustainability challenges for rice farmers. And we actually visited the company case study in Cambodia, their head office. And subsequently after the study tour, which Jane did an amazing job organising, and it's really an amazing week adventure that I'll remember for life. We wrote a reflective journal, which was just a really great assessment item to kind of, what did we learn before and after, and just really apply, what we see in business practice to academic literature. So I just found that really like an agile way, because, we're in such a constantly evolving world with AI, digitization, the 4-day working week, like we discussed. So I saw also the MBA program with the specializations. Also, that there's a bit of an AI and digitization focus now, which I think is highly relevant, given where the world's heading. So not only have I found this MBA program and the assessments really interesting, they're really applicable and add a lot of value to my everyday work. And just finally, I just really encourage those of us who pursue the program to really actively participate in class if you can attend them, because I found a lot of the informal learning from classmates and the lecturers are world class, and that's just been an amazing way to really enhance the whole study experience just through the class discussions, which I always really look forward to them each day and every week. So I highly recommend just really getting actively involved in the program with your cohort and your lecturers.
Thanks, Chindy. That was a really good insight and understanding the practical side of the program, obviously walking in your shoes and the experience that you've had, and especially globally as well, which is really cool. It sounds like there's some pretty hands-on activities that you can take upon if you do have the capacity to do so. So, Jane, on the same conversation, really just understanding those sessions and trimesters. Obviously, we've got a couple of different postgraduate business programs available. Can you explain to the audience how they work, what program is more suited for that session or semester-based learning model?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So our MBA is set up in sessions. So it means that we have the 6 to 7 week session, which is basically half a trimester. So what would happen is that our next session, and it's actually session 2 that starts in March, it starts the same day as trimester 1 starts. And then we get to the middle of the trimester and the end of the session. And then the students usually have about a 2 week break, and then they move on to the next session, studying a different course. So just as an example, if you're a part-time student like Chindy, you'll be doing 1 subject per session. However, if you're a full-time student, and we do have a lot of full-time students, you'd be doing 2 courses per session. Now, our MBIA program, which is the Masters of Business Intelligence and Analytics, that also runs in trimesters. So apologies for the confusion there, but it has some subjects that are in sessions as well. Just because we share this program with the School of Science, Technology and Engineering, and they use trimesters. So in actual fact, the trimester is currently a 12-week trimester. And yeah, you'd really just be doing the subject. You're still doing the same amount of study and the same kind of volume of learning that we talk about in trimesters and sessions. Just the session is more condensed and quick, and you get it done and you're like, yay, okay, off to the next one. So I don't know if that's what you experience, Chindy, when you do yours. You're like, oh.
Absolutely. Yeah, they time flies when you're having fun, right? But
Yes.
it's still a good amount of time because you really
Mm,
do go deep in that condensed 7 week session model, but it's still a sufficient time, I found. So that's just another way that UniSC has been adaptive, and also if you want to take a session off, if you have work commitments, you don't have to wait say 13 weeks before recommencing uni, which is really
mm,
flexible for everyone's lives, really.
yeah.
And
And
to be honest, that's what exactly was going through my head is I can predict 6 weeks at a time. Now I've got a little girl and I've got another little one on the way. And I'm like, you know what? I can see 6 weeks ahead of me, but can I see 3 months ahead? So I really that sessional model for me, I could see while balancing my workload on, okay, I could commit to one or two subjects at a time or one subject at a time and really chip away at it, but understanding that there are certain 6 week blocks that I might have to take a break and having that flexibility while committing to my work and my family and still trying to get ahead is really like well flexible but gives you the chance to be able to keep on progressing in a time where you don't feel like you're having a huge amount of break and losing that momentum.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So I guess Chindy brought up before, and it was around talking about like that practical case study experience and using your personal experiences or your work experiences, or tying some of these case studies that you can do throughout your studies to your work, so you can obviously upskill or learn get deeper understanding of the work that you do. Jane, what practical experiences or case studies are incorporated in the degree to prepare students for real life challenges? Obviously, Chindy gave it his point
Yeah.
of view, but what about your point of view across all the students that you see?
Yeah, definitely. So we use multiple methods. So we use like Harvard business cases or any type of business case that we might have access to. So we try to engage with industry as well here on the Sunshine Coast. So, I might have done a study on workforce attraction, retention, and development here on the Sunshine Coast. So I use the examples from some of the organizations that we spoke to in class. We also run a lot of live cases. So, for instance, in our business capstone subject last year, not the one that did, but I'll talk about that too. Basically, we had a local organisation called Bloomhill Cancer Care come and do a live case for our students. And what our students did, and it was up to the students. They either could do the case on Bloomhill or they could go and use their own organisations. But basically, they developed a whole range of strategies for these organizations based on theories and models and concepts. And we presented them back to Bloomhill. So we're really trying to give students that kind of really practical, real world experience. And also giving students the opportunities to work on problems that they face within their own organizations. And as Chindy talked about, Chindy attended the Cambodia study tour that we ran last year. Previous years, we went to Indonesia and to Vietnam, and we go to real life organizations. And it was really interesting that Chindy had done his assignment on a company called Amru Rice. And it turned out that because we were visiting the Australian Embassy and an association called CAPRED, or Australian Government Initiative, that they actually knew Amru and they said, oh yeah, if you want, you can have a visit to Amru. And we're like, our student already done the presentation on them, so let's visit them. So yeah, so definitely lots of very fortuitous, lots of experience, lots of opportunities to do, real world work and cases.
Thanks, Jane. And I guess following on, you mentioned before some specializations, and obviously Chindy brought them up as well. And
Yeah.
some of these specializations sound like they could be very useful in certain industries or industry focused. But can you
Yeah.
talk about the depth of, like, I guess, where the MBA is going in regards to utilizing specializations and how they could be adopted in terms of skill set or in your workplace environment?
Yeah, certainly. So we sat down about 2 years ago, and my strong opinion was that our MBA needed to be digitally focused because we live in a digital world. It also needs to be sustainable focused as well. So there's a bit of implementation of that. So what we did was we actually said, okay, so where can we implement technology? So we've got our new subject on business transformation through technology and artificial intelligence as a core. You can also do project management basically an elective co-core. And then we have, I think it's about 6 specializations. And we have a specialization in ICT, we have a specialization in business intelligence and analytics, in cybersecurity. So all those things that we're, trying to, that we need to try to do within organizations. And we've got our standard specializations that most MBAs would usually have. So things like international business or I think it's called evidence-based marketing. We've got one on innovation and strategic leadership. Yes, strategic management or strategic leadership, something along the lines of that. And so on. So we've also got like an economics and accounting one. So really just trying to, still provide a traditional MBA, but also be very digitally focused for students who want to go down that track of, because yeah, we're operating in the digital world.
And I guess now we're down to our final question for the evening. Now, if any of our audience members do have questions for Jane or Chindy regarding studying or around the masterclass, feel free to throw them straight into the Q&A tab now, just before we're about to wrap up. But really, the last question is for you, Chindy. You have one subject left. What is your plans from here?
Well, that's a great question, Cody. Look, I've really embraced the 4-day working week, and so I don't foresee myself necessarily looking for another job for now. But I really just after the MBA, I'm actually looking at maybe doing some more volunteering work, maybe in a corporate governance capacity. So it's just yeah. Initially, when I started out, I wanted to be CEO of my previous employer, but I guess my priorities have changed, and I guess part of that personal journey as well with the MBAs give me a lot of time to reflect on my priorities in life, and yeah, it's just really opportune timing with the 4-day work model. I'm a huge advocate of it, and I think that health is wealth. And if you are fortunate enough to be given that opportunity, I've seen firsthand how productivity and engagement really improves, both for employees and employers. So, look, I want to take everything that I've learned and serve my customers better. And it's just been an amazing journey with the MBA, and I couldn't recommend it highly enough. And who knows, maybe do a PhD down the track. One of my friends from the MBA program, Drew, has actually followed that path. So the research focus actually, it unlocks a part of the mind. So if you're inclined and enjoy research, it's definitely the MBA program's fantastic if you are looking at further study as well as career progression.
Yeah, Chindy, I'll tell you what, your friend Drew wouldn't be the only student who, once they start studying and create strong relationships, especially with their academics, and get a deeper insight of what research means and what teaching means, some never leave the uni. And I've met a lot of students who've gone down that path with goals to move into more clinical work straight away, but followed the research suit once they started getting to the back end of their studies, due to that relationship and that passion of, I guess, further progression of the industry that they're in a different way. And it's really cool. And I hope to see you on campus. And if you do pursue research, I'm sure I'll see you with Jane over a coffee one time.
Oh, thanks, Cody.
Jane, do you have any final advice for our audience here tonight before we wrap up for the evening?
Yeah, look, I just think, if you're interested in study, apply as soon as possible so that you're, you have enough time to get ready for the session offering when it starts in early March. Try and engage with your colleagues as well, your students, engage with your lecturers. They're here to help you. We're very focused on small classes, so our classes will probably, I think they all have a cap now of about 30 people in them. So yeah, we're giving our students opportunities to engage with one another and their lecturers and so on. And yeah, but we're also working on a joint MBA/PhD program, although it probably won't be offered until 2028, I'd say. That's definitely in the pipeworks that we're working on because we know that there's a demand for it. So.
That's really great to hear. Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you so much, Chindy, for joining us this evening. I'm going to move to wrapping up for the evening. So why UniSC? Well, we're number one in Australia for teaching quality. We have a modern, flexible approach to our learning, where that would be on campus, online, or a combination of both. And our true focus is around employability. And that is where our programs really focus and enrich our learning from work integrated learning, hands-on, as well as case study or real life experiences. And of course, learn from experts like Jane Menzies, our discipline lead, who's also teaches our program over the last few years, but has moved into more of a progressive role, taking the lead. If you do have any more questions, book a one-on-one or a campus tour. If you jump on any of our program pages, you'll see a banner there that says book a campus tour or book a study advisor. Or you can give our Student Central team a call on 0754302890. Now, over the next couple of days, you'll receive a email from us with an opportunity actually to book in a one-on-one study consult with Jane over the next couple of weeks. Now, I can see there if you are interested in the MBA PhD program, and if that did spark your interest and would like to know what that could mean in the future, obviously you still have to go through your MBA first, which might mean commencement this year would line up with that quite perfectly, a 1.52-year MBA rolling to PhD.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, that you can actually catch up with Jane, learn a bit more about it and what that study journey could look like for you. But
Yeah.
alternatively, even if you're looking at a grad cert or a pathway program into these, catch up with Student Central team or Jane over the next couple of weeks and get ready for our next intake, which kicks off in late February, first week of March. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a restful night and look forward to seeing you on campus or online with UniSC. Thanks, Chindy. Thanks, Jane. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank
Cody.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.